The Pokemon Sun and Moon era was one of the TCG's best. While it definitely received some criticism during its time, and the tail end of the Sun and Moon era definitely had its shortcomings, overall it was a great time to be playing the game due to the diversity of decks, the collectibility of the cards, and the implementation of new mechanics that changed the game. The Sun and Moon era officially began with the release of Sun and Moon base set in late 2016 for Japan, and in English at the beginning of 2017. Base set introduced us to Pokemon GX. Pokemon GX were powerful Pokemon, which received incredibly strong GX attacks, but the attacks were balanced because you could only use one of them per game. Pokemon GX immediately made a splash in the metagame. That same year, during the 2017 World Championships, GX Pokemon found their way into all of the top decks. The legal sets were Primal Clash to Burning Shadows. In total, only 3 main sets from the Sun and Moon block were released at this point. The decks from the Masters Division included Gardevoir GX, Golisopod GX, Espeon GX in the top 3 spots. Gardevoir GX was incredibly strong with its Secret Spring ability to accelerate Fairy Energy and its Infinite Force attacks, which would do 30 damage times the number of energy attached to both active Pokemon. Golisopod was also very strong, being able to hit for 120 with only a single Grass Energy if it came up from the bench on the same turn. Finally, Espeon GX was a solid 200 HP Stage 1 and a good call into Gardevoir GX. Espeon's Psychic attack did 60 damage plus 30 more for each energy on your opponent's active Pokemon, which let it hit big into a lot of matchups. Golisopod and Espeon were both backed up by Garbodor, with its Garbotoxin ability to shut down all Pokemon abilities except its own, so long as it had a Pokemon tool attached to it. All the other decks ran Field Blower to counter this menace that was Garbodor. In the supporting role, which would be key throughout the entirety of the Sun and Moon block, was Tapu Lele GX with its Wonder Tag ability to search your deck for any one supporter card. Guzma was also a very powerful staple introduced in Sun and Moon, bringing up your opponent's bench Pokemon and also switching in one of your own. This comboed really well with Golisopod GX. Each subsequent Sun and Moon expansion continued to release powerful new GX cards. During 2018 Worlds, Zoroark GX took first. Its trade ability was an incredible draw engine. On top of that, it had very solid attacks in Riotous Beating to deal up to 120 for 2 colorless energy. That may not seem like a lot by modern Pokemon standards, but the Sun and Moon era had lower HP on average, and you usually expected you would need at least 2 turns to take a knockout on your opponent's Pokemon anyways. Zoroark was backed up by some familiar faces in Garbodor and Tapu Lele in the support role. I'm getting real sick of seeing the trash bag in top lists, but of top 8 this is the only deck running it. In second place was Psychic Malamar, a Psychic Toolbox deck which used Malamar to accelerate Psychic Energy from the discard, and then a whole host of Psychic Pokemon were played, including Necrozma GX with its incredible Black Ray GX attack to deal 100 damage to each of your opponent's GX and EX Pokemon. Coming in third place was Zygarde Lycanroc. Zygarde GX had an incredible Land's Wrath attack hit for 130, which was aided by its Cell Connector attack to accelerate fighting energy onto it. Lycanroc GX played a key role to switch an opponent's bench Pokemon with its Bloodthirsty Eyes ability, and its GX attack did 50 damage for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon, which could confer massive damage if your opponent overcommitted too early in the game. Lycanroc GX is going to show up a lot in later decks as well because of its incredible ability. Beyond the top 3 were a lot of other strategies, including Rayquaza GX, Greninja Break, and a lot of trash bag variants. One of the reasons people loved playing these formats so much was because there was a great mix of evolution and basic Pokemon, and there were a ton of different ways to play and build decks. 2019 is when the Sun and Moon era took a turn. The release of Team Up, Unbroken Bonds, and Unified Minds drastically changed the Pokemon TCG forever. These sets released the Tag Team Pokemon. These cards featured 2 or more Pokemon on them and had incredibly high HP and stupid strong attacks with even stronger GX attacks. These cards were also worth 3 prize cards instead of the normal 2 for GX Pokemon. Looking at Pikachu and Zekrom GX, often abbreviated to Pikarom, this card is insane. Its full Blitz attack lets you do 150 damage for 3 lightning energy and accelerate 3 more lightning energy from your deck to one of your Pokemon. This conveniently sets up Pikarom's GX attack, which for 3 lightning energy says, if this Pokemon has at least 3 extra lightning energy attached to it, in addition to this attack's cost, this attack does 170 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. 170 is the magic number here. One of the strongest supporter Pokemon in the format is Tapu Lele GX, which has, guess what, 170 HP. The attack also did 200 damage to the active Pokemon as well, which knocks out the majority of GX Pokemon. There are also many ways to increase damage output in this format, did for 210 or more, which knocks out the rest of the remaining GX Pokemon. This led to incredibly quick games, as Pikarom could take 6 prizes across 2 turns. Each tag team Pokemon had a similar design, with crazy strong attacks which would shape the format around them. It became very apparent you were either playing tag team Pokemon or you're losing to tag team Pokemon. In the 2019 World Championships Masters Division, 26 of the top 32 decks were playing tag team Pokemon, and the tournament was won by Mew and Mewtwo GX deck. The final Sun and Moon expansion was Cosmic Eclipse, released November 1st, 2019. A lot of powerful cards were released in this set, but I want to focus on Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia GX, also called ADP. This card is insane for 1 Steel Energy and the attack Altered Creation, which essentially said for the rest of the game your attacks do 30 more damage, and if you have a Water Energy attached to this card when you make the attack, you also get to take an extra prize card every time you knock out your opponent's Pokemon. ADP saw a ton of play during its legality. I think a deck using it would have won 2020 Worlds had a certain incident not led to the event's cancellation. ADP was very successful, but because of the incident, it never really got to see the kind of level of success I think it was capable of having. Another key part of the Sun and Moon era, which I haven't discussed yet, were the Prism Star cards. These cards were incredibly strong, but you're only able to play a single copy of each Prism Star card in your deck. These cards were amazing, usually as single prize attackers, support Pokemon that added variety to decks, or as powerful trainer cards that supported your deck strategy. You weren't able to play 4 copies as you might like, so they became a flexible tool to use in strategies that you weren't always guaranteed to see. Some players disliked this design as it added a higher ceiling to decks in some cases, but also more variability because you aren't guaranteed to see the card. Some strong Prism Star Pokemon are Ditto, which can act as a flexible Pokemon to evolve into any Stage 1 Pokemon. Victini, which can hit for massive damage depending on how much energy is in your discard pile, while also recycling that energy, and Diancie, which gave your Fighting-type Pokemon a solid boost in their attacks. Even from a collector's standpoint, the era was incredible. Tag Team Pokemon are loved by many collectors, and a lot of the Tag Team Pokemon alt arts are highly sought after. Gardevoir and Sylveon GX alt art costs around $300 right now. Even the base rarity of some of these cards like Mew and Mewtwo GX still sit around $30. The full art trainers from this era are also highly coveted. Lily, for her alternate art, is $400, which is insane. There's also the Hidden Fates Shiny Vault set, which reprinted cards from the era in their shiny forms, which contains the shiny Charizard GX. Overall, it was a great time to collect Pokemon cards, though I will admit I personally am not a fan of the Pokemon alt arts and Rainbow Secret Rares. I love the normal artwork on GX Pokemon, which are essentially full art cards on their own. Metagross, Zoroark, and Gardevoir GX have really cool artworks and are among my favorites, but that kind of weird looking like rainbow or red foiling I think just kind of looks dumb on the cards. Cosmic Eclipse also had these incredible secret rare cards that are Pokemon teaming up with their trainers in the artwork. While this isn't the same as actual trainers Pokemon, I just love seeing trainer Pokemon show up on the artwork. This is also an idea which was later revisited during the Sword and Shield era. The final thing I wanted to discuss regarding the era was the overall feeling playing the game. I played this game back in my teenage years with my friends, and we played some jank decks to say the least. I ran a Metagross GX deck, which sought to play Steven's Resolve while I controlled the single prize Metagross from Celestial Storm, so that my turn wouldn't end. My buddy ran a Mewtwo GX deck, and his girlfriend played a Water Good Stuff deck that played literally any powerful basic water Pokemon she could find. I never did competitively well during the format, but it felt pretty balanced. Opening packs was always exciting because of the wide variety of rarities, and to be completely honest, it was about 3 years before the big Pokemon hype when all the craziness behind Pokemon began. I remember this is when you could still buy Pokemon XY Evolutions for like $4 a pack. Crazy how things have changed in just a few years. I think one of the reasons I love looking back at these Pokemon formats and the past of other card games isn't just to look at the history of the game, but also look back at the fun times I had with my friends and me and my older brother playing these card games together. Sun and Moon was a great time to be playing Pokemon, up until a certain point at least. The decks had unique strategies, there's a solid mix of basic and evolution Pokemon in the metagame, acting as supporters and attackers. The GX mechanic was new and exciting. Super strong attacks you only use once a game, meaning you had to carefully decide when to use it, and which GX attack amongst all your Pokemon GX was needed to win a game. Many people continue to play formats from the Sun and Moon era to this day. Sun and Moon based to Lost Thunder is one of the most popular retro formats from this era. Numerous decks were playable, and there's diversity of strategies including single prize focused decks, setup strategies, and more aggro decks. Most people don't want to play with the entire Sun and Moon block due to the immense power creep from tag team Pokemon in the later Sun and Moon sets. I will say though, my buddy loves Pikarom and would love to bring out his old deck from this format. The decks from the format are also super cheap. Sun and Moon to Lost Thunder format decks cost around $40 to $80 build. A lot of the expensive cards from this era are the alt arts and tag team Pokemon, Lily being a prime example, costing 10 cents for a common and 400 for the full art. So unless you want to bling out your deck, it's very, very cheap to get into. And it's a recent enough format that veteran players are very likely to have a few decks lying around. For this format, I love to play Gardevoir GX, Malamar Necrozma, and Zoroark. I am thinking about building some other decks for the format, but these are probably my favorite. Gardevoir has easy energy acceleration and hits for big damage. The deck also runs Alola Ninetales, which is an incredible searching ability and a solid bench snipe attack. Malamar Necrozma is fun too, again because of energy acceleration. If you've watched my review of the Battle Styles of Paradox Rift format, which I'll link in the top right corner right now, you know I'm a huge fan of energy acceleration decks. Zoroark is just fun because you can draw so many cards in a turn with Zoroark, and on top of that you get a basically free gust effect with Lycanroc, which is amazing. The Sun and Moon format is incredibly fun, and I hope you try it out for yourself. Like I said earlier though, the real reason to play these older formats is to look back on fond memories from your life and really enjoy those moments again. Thanks for watching.